Okay, welcome back to our next class. Here we're going to be continuing our demonstration of some of the key basic concepts of blueprints and the interface as well. Now, in this one, we're going to talk about something that's really important, simple but really important, and that's the comments and rerouting. So we'll discuss what it is and what it's for. Okay? So, comments. What is it? What's it for? Well, comments is something that we demonstrated in the introductory video. You may remember when we started looking at the blueprints in C++. And it's basically a way of us creating a private note for us as the developer, the one creating the programming. It helps us to keep things organized, okay, especially our commands that we're putting together. And it's really useful if someone else comes into the project that we're collaborating with, or maybe they have to come into it to help us with something. They can just take a quick glance, they can analyze it, and they help to do things more effectively because we've put a comment around what our blueprints are actually doing. So it's really helpful and it helps us to stay organized. So I definitely recommend it, even from the most simplest of blueprints to the most complex. So if you get the hang of using comments, it will really help you in the long run. In fact, even when you need to start debugging some issues, you can just go back into a blueprint, even if you haven't used it maybe for ages. You might have so many different types of blueprints and you just need to review one. Well, believe me, if you comment, then even if it's just one you're changing, you'll be able to look at it at a glance and straight away, it'll be easy for you to fix. So let's suppose we want to put a comment on this line of programming that we've created. Let me just select everything. So you just click and you drag and then push the letter C on your keyboard. There we go. So it's given us the comment window. And then I can just type in something here to really name my comment of what the program's doing. So I can put print screen because that's what the code is doing here. And then press enter. And here I've got a comment window on this specific blueprint. I can resize this window. I can adjust it in any form that I want to make it easier for me. And I can drag it as well. When I just click on the top bar, I can just move it. So it's really useful, especially when you start creating bigger blueprints. It's really useful to have these comments so you can just quickly drag the blueprint itself via the comment. Okay, so let's say I want to add another function. I can just drag it all the way like this, wherever I want. And, if I want to put more nodes in there, I can make it bigger if I want to. It's a really helpful tool. So now that we put a comment on there, it's locked. Okay, I can make it smaller if I want to, if I don't want it to include the begin play. And look at that, easy to move around. So you can adapt it and move it how you feel best for your layout. So that's the comment window. And you can add as many comments as you want. So let's suppose we want to add a comment here. We just press C and there we go. And then we can type in there whatever we want to call this part of the blueprint. We can call that start print, for example. Then we can resize it. We can adjust it, whatever we want. Just making sure we're staying organized is number one. That's the key. When we zoom in and out, you also see that you see your labels. Okay, so you never lose track of what it is you're actually doing at that part of your blueprint, especially when things get really big. It's really helpful to stay organized and still see the labels clearly. You might find as we develop, you start getting loads and loads of blueprints. Okay, so that's really, really key. In the details panel here, what else do we see? Well, we're able to add more control to the comment box here. We can type in the label here. We can rename it here in the details panel. So you can do it either way. Just double click there if you want to, or you can do it in the details panel. Either way, it does exactly the same thing. A nice feature as well, you can change the color of the comment box. Look at this. So if we want to identify things by color, that's a really nice way to stay organized. Especially as we say, as our blueprints become bigger, It can be really helpful to keep certain functions the same color. And then at a distance, you can just go by color, can't you? If you'd rather do that than labels. Um, of course, I have your labels, but it's nice also to have the color feature too. So what else do we have? Well, we can open it here and we can see we've got the RGB color, we've got the font size, which is nice. You can enlarge the font of your text to make it easier for you to see. And this is the show bubble when zoomed in. Okay. We can disable that function if we don't want it to do that. And maybe, you might want to disable it if you think it's maybe getting in the way a bit too much. It's up to you. But in the details panel, we've got these extra options to help us. You can also paint the bubble the same color as the comment as well. Okay. I call it bubble, you might call it label, but I think you know what I mean. And last, we have this part here. Okay. So let's move on now from the comment box. If I select the group movement, actually, just before, let me just show you this. If I select group movement, I can drag everything. And if I deselect it, I don't drag everything. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, just in case you wonder what that does. So this is how I recommend we work. Use comments, they're really helpful. Now, another resource that I want to show you is the reroute. You might be wondering, when I mentioned that at the start, what is reroute? What does it mean? Well, let's have a look at it now, shall we? So what is a reroute? Well, let's suppose that we have, let's say, let me give you an example which makes sense in Pregmin. Let me just set this up. So what I'll include is, I'll just do this just for educational purposes, okay? So don't worry about what it is that the functions are actually doing. Let's suppose for some reason that I want to connect this node here all the way to the other node right at the end, okay? But I want to keep the delay node in place. So that's staying where it is, but I want to connect the print string on the left to the print string on the right. I don't really want to be going through the delay because that just looks messy. I want to keep it all tidy and neat so we can follow the flow of the plugs, if you want to call it, the wires, right? So let me just set up this variable. Don't worry about what it's actually doing. This is just to demonstrate how we can use this feature. Okay, so let me just put a value in the node. Right, okay, so here we go. So we've got this variable here. We're plugging it into the delay. And then I want to connect this to here. Now I have this line going right through the back of delay. It's not a problem. It's still going to work. It's fine, but it's not the tidiest way to work, is it? It's going to end up looking really messy if I keep working like this. And sometimes it can make it even harder to find things in your blueprint and find out what they're doing or what they're connected to. So when this line is connected directly, it will always produce the flow that we spoke about before. We can move this node around so it's repositions better visually, but sometimes we just want to connect things rather than going through another node. We can just double click here and it creates a reroute. You see that? So this is a intersection, we could say, and we can click and we can drag this intersection anywhere we want. Okay, so it just makes it easier. It's like a road going around a node. We can go any way we want just to keep it neat and clean. Now, by the way, we can even comment here. For example, we can add a comment onto that so we understand where it's going. Now, I want to create a new event starting here. Let's suppose I want to do that, or an event that will shift at this point, or whatever we want to add. If whatever we want to put here, we can do so. And the reroute helps us. Another interesting thing is that it becomes its own kind of node, doesn't it? It gives us those features to add other elements to it. So let's suppose I want to create another node, a reroute, and I want this variable here. I want this variable to control the delay and the duration of the print string. So I can drag it up to here. Okay, so we have much better organization. Now, if I delete it, what's going to happen? Well, it deletes everything. And now this effect here, what do you think? It's the same thing, doing exactly the same thing, but it's just not using the reroute. So we have the ability to use the reroute just to keep things tidy, but we can also use it to add more labels too. The key thing here is just keep things organized so that in a visual way, you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, that's it for now. Let's move on to the next class.